Hey guys, we received a few questions about the flow of applications, so we decided to make a quick presentation on that, just give you a better idea of best practices you could take to expedite the process and make it as efficient as possible. So we have to understand that everyone pretty much goes through the same flow. Yeah, so it's actually very important to know what are the steps every application goes through. When your customer actually gets to your website, you guys probably use different marketing tools, but essentially he lands on your website and he starts and completes his application. So once you actually have that complete application on your hands, you're able to submit it with putting status 50. And at that point, this application is actually being sent to us for submission. And what it does, it sends it to lenders. And each lender has their own dashboard where they see the file and they're either able to upload the file or decline it. And those offers, if uploaded, they will end up on your dashboard. So you will be able to actually look at that offer and add commission. And once you actually add that client rate or commission, your customer will be able to see that offer. Let's say your customer actually liked the offer, he will accept it, and he previously attached documents. So his previously attached documents would be sent to the lender who gave that offer. At that point, lender actually reviews the file. If everything looks good, he will send the contract and will request additional stipulations. So what customer does, he signs the contract and sends back all the stipulations. At that point, they actually do final underwriting. And what they do, what's called in this industry, they call funding call, where they like an underwriter or senior underwriter from the lender will be speaking to the merchant and making sure that everything is correct, and at that point we'll make a final decision. That's what actually happens, and if everything goes well, that's when the actual loan gets funded. Okay, so it takes 8 steps to get a loan funded. Problem, or the actual point here though, is that most of these steps are fairly straightforward and do not that much time consuming. Most of the job happens in between step number 1 and step number 2. Completing these applications and then submitting it to us takes about 80% of your time, and those are the most important steps, and we will cover them in this presentation. So what do we need to submit the file? What actually makes your application complete? So what do we need to submit the file? It is standard requirements, and they're standard for everyone in the industry pretty much in alternative finance. Depending on the product, there are some additional stipulations and some additional documents that will be required, but usually these are the main documents that we are being sending to lenders. High level, we can divide the application into two. It's the actual application and the financial report that comes together with the application. So application has 3 main things to it. It's information about the business, information about the owner of the business, and what we call merchant interview, or some additional information about this particular loan application. For financial report, we need 3 months bank statements, and we need months to date statement if like that the day you're actually submitting this application is past the 10th day of the month. So this is what the application would look on a high level for your customer, and this is how it would look for you in order to submit it to lenders. You need to understand that this is where most of the job is, and this is what's going to take 80% of your time. We try to expedite this process and make it efficient, and that's why we split it like this for you guys. So today we actually split information for business information. It has this type of questions such as business name, business address, and so on. Owner's information such as name, address, social security number, percentage of ownership, and stuff like that. We also do need financial report, either business bank statements for past 3 months or linked bank accounts, so we can actually get statements ourselves. We also need months to date statements in the case as I explained in the previous slide. We also do ask for a merchant interview or the application, and this questions or this points of information are what's needed for that application. So this is what actually is contains in that application, or what application contains of. We actually split it to make it as smooth as possible for your customer to get that information as in the easiest possible way. And that's how we ended up with the UX that we currently have. So to actually make it smoother, you have to understand that there are lots of information that customers do not want to give initially. And that's why we had to, we tried different ways, and we tried testing, and we came up with this flow to be the most efficient. How we do it, so we basically split it today into three. So we have the front application, we call it front application or initial application. We have the financial report, has bank accounts and attached statements thing. You remember it. So actually I can show it to you in a second. And we have everything that's in the portal. So this thing happens before the application, and this stuff happens after the application. You definitely remember how it looks. So we're here back in the demo. So this side, this part of this application, how much you're looking for, and all these questions is this front application. We call it front application. Once you actually submit the application, let's actually do it quickly. The application actually gets submitted. So this is the first step of the application. And here we have the second step of the application, which is attaching bank statements, as you remember. Why did we do that? And I'll explain you why. So the biggest problem, what happens with this type of applications in web development, is that people actually drop out while submitting an application. So what happens is that they usually would start an application, and once there's some complicated questions that they do not know answers for, or some questions that they don't feel comfortable providing, they will just drop the app, like finishing the application. That's what happens to everyone. That's what probably happens to you as well. That's why we had to analyze it, and this is how it works. So the front application has some business questions, it has some owner questions, and some merchant questions, merchant interview questions. At that point, once these questions are submitted, this application will already be in your system. Why we do that? 60% of the customers drop out at this point. It's normal, it's statistically proven, and we cannot do much about it. We can only try improving it over time, but essentially that's what happens. And we don't want to completely be blind and not even have information about this file. That's why we save it at this point. At that point, we actually provide the guy with financial report, or like an opportunity to attach his bank statements. We have to understand that only 40% actually get to that. They actually start and submit bank information. Most of the customers will actually drop out at this stage, and you need to follow up with them. So what happens is that some customers will actually attach statements, but many of them will actually not do that, and they will drop out. So you have to understand it's like only 60% of them will drop out and not attach statements. But there will be about 20% of people that will get to the portal, and they will create a user. As you remember, user is the system that is here. I'll attach a couple of things for us to just keep a track of. So this is where they actually are able to create profile. So I am currently at this step, and only about 20% actually of the applicants get here. Majority of applicants do not even get there. Why that happens? Well, because people get tired, or they get confused, or they don't feel comfortable providing that information again, as I said. And only 10% of the whole applications, basically 1 out of 10, will go through all those steps and get you an application that's completely, fully complete. That happens, doesn't happen often, so you have to expect that. Most of the time, guys will drop out, like customers will drop out either here or here, and you will have to follow up with them. So that's why I created some best practices how to address these applications and how to get them to complete. So let me log back in to the system. So I'll use Nelson email. So this is the application. Let's pick one that that looks pretty empty, so we can actually look at it. The system actually helps you doing that. You see what it says 24, the statuses, so it actually analyzes it in the morning for you. But so the best thing or the best steps that you need to take once you actually see an application is to check the application and determine or see or try to see what is missing in that application. So that would be the first step that you need to do. So let's look into this file. It says Wells Fargo, and we can see here that lots of stuff is missing. Looks like address is here, date of birth is here, name is here, some when he started his business is here, and business name is here, some industry is here. So some answers are here, some questions are missing. And what it means, I can see from this that this application actually dropped out at this stage. Okay, what it means that this application has no financials, so no bank statements attached, no bank account linked, and this guy just dropped out. He decided that it was too much for him and he dropped out. So what we do with this guy, we follow up with him. So the suggestion number 2 is to understand what stage was the customer at when he or she dropped out. Well, we figured this out based on this application that this guy dropped out at this stage. He dropped out here. That's why he doesn't have financials. That's why he doesn't have social security, EIN, business address, and some other questions missing. So what do we need to do now? We need to see and think about how to get that guy to finish an application. So you need to think about that particular customer and think what actually was the reason why he dropped out. And we need to tackle it. We need to look into that. And what we should do in that situation is we can take steps according to how, like to that guy. Here you can actually call the guy. You can try to send him an email. But basically, that's what your job would be at this point. Think about that customer, think about how to approach him in the right way to get him to finish the application, and then take necessary steps. So let's say this guy, yeah, I can call him, or I can get him to finish his account, or I can send him an email, or I can actually ask him to create a portal and then fill out the application. So, and then I take necessary steps. So that would be what's needed. Let's say that would become most of your time spent on this application. And what's going to happen is that you will have lots of applications that are complete. And at that point, you can actually see that we can see at this file, and we can see that this file is complete. And what we can do is we can just status it 50 and actually send this file to submission. At that point, actual system will also analyze it for you, and it will allow you to status it 50 if the file is good to go. If the file is not complete, like over here, let's say, you can status it 50 and it will not let you do so. You see, it says application status cannot be changed because account information is missing and application information is missing. So this would help you to realize what's missing. So again, 4 steps, best practices is number 1, check the application and first of all, and look what is missing. So right away, I can see that his social is missing, his federal tax ID is missing, his business address is missing, and his financials are missing. So I can tell what stage was the customer at when he or she dropped out. I can tell you based on that information that this guy dropped out at this stage as well. So that's why he's missing bank statements. And that's why he's missing all this personal information that needed to be encrypted. So next question is, think about that customer and think about how to get that customer to finish his application and take necessary steps according to that guy's personal behavior or your relationship with that customer. Okay? Thank you so much. And if you have any questions, so we will actually touch this up, the slides right below. And if you have any questions, you can also comment right in the